and was really heavily involved in residence life as well, which helped with a lot of skills that I still use today. As far as research goes, I do currently more health policy research than basic science, though I would love to. If you have a background in either, those are very advantageous, not only in applying, but while you're an actual student and then beyond after you graduate. I am on the board of directors for the California Naturopathic Doctors Association. I attend our lobby day events every year, and as well as the AANP's DC Fly, which just happened. I'm sure you've maybe seen something online through AANP about that. And per the introduction, I've also been to the World Health Assembly with some of the World Naturopathic Federation delegates. You can advance the slide. So why naturopathic medicine? For me personally, my values truly aligned with the different principles in the therapeutic order. You know, just having to describe this to a patient in the clinic actually this week who had Googled and found our clinic by searching for a doctor who used natural medicine first. And that's really, to me, you know, something that really resonated. I want to start by empowering the patient, help their body fight off whatever it's fighting, and then prevent you know, certain chronic diseases and things that we're seeing now that can be preventable by living a healthy lifestyle. What health and wellness can we create in an individual? Then you move up to the necessary more intense or potentially invasive therapies as they're necessary. So that really resonated with me. I thought the healing was more enduring that I saw with naturopathic medicine. And we have so many tools in our tool belt. I get so excited when we introduce a legislator who visits a campus perhaps, or we're on Capitol Hill, or talking to someone in the grocery store about what naturopathic medicine is, and all the different tools that we have available to meet the patient where they're at in their respective state. So hydrotherapy, physical medicine, botanical medicine, homeopathy, nutrition, lifestyle counseling, the whole gamut. I think we're also one of the best liaisons to care, so someone who's really passionate about global health and those different paradigms I was talking about earlier. I think we have that capacity and to really meet someone where they're at, especially if they're more the true sense of traditional medicine, right? Indigenous medicine, different cultural beliefs. I think we're one of the best liaisons to that care. Next slide. So the 6 principles of naturopathic medicine that I talked about earlier: first, do no harm, the healing power of nature, identify and treat the causes, the physician as teacher, treat the whole person, and mission. If you've ever been in a naturopathic physician or in California naturopathic doctor's office before, oftentimes you'll actually see these principles on the wall, which I always love seeing. It's a reminder to stay true to the principles of the medicine and really how to organize the flow of an appointment or to keep yourself grounded in a treatment plan. I think you see some of these maybe with other philosophies of medicine and health, but I think the culmination of these all together really are what helped attract me. And two, one of the neat things is, at least in our student teaching clinic, we have these principles on the top of every single chart note with patients so that we're really connected to the principles while we care for them. Next slide. I should note too, a physician as teacher, so docere as we say, was probably one of the most attractive components for me in naturopathic medicine. When you leave your doctor's office, you want to feel like not only were you treated in some capacity, but most people like to come away knowing something a little bit more, connecting them more to their body, feeling a little more empowered. And time after time, whether it's individuals I've preceptored with or supervisors in the clinic or in classroom, I see that, and I see that's really where we excel so often. A therapeutic order, I talked about this a little earlier, so here's another wonderful diagram provided by the AANMC. They also have a bunch of other resources available on their website, so if you're considering naturopathic medical school, I highly recommend going on their website and looking for more fun diagrams like this. You can go to the next slide. My weekly routine. What I put down is what is ideal. I just want to be very open and honest that I am absolutely human, and this may look really ideal right now, but you may see me next week on campus during finals with frizzy hair, running around frantically, finding healthy food from our healthy vending machine, and trying to get steps in between classes. So this is what I put down is really my goal. Move and meditate daily. As much as I can, I try to stay present in that day. We have a break every 50 minutes, and so I like to walk around between classes, and I think that speaks on behalf of the students across all of the schools. So we really like to practice what we preach. So yes, I have class from Monday through Friday. That may vary in our first year, more time actually in class. So 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. may be my reality Monday through Friday, but that's what a lot of my peers who have different kinds of careers are doing. So I really encourage a lot of the students who come and tour at the schools to treat school like a 9 to 5. Stay off social media as much as possible, or other activities during the day, and get all your schoolwork done between 9 to 5, and then when you get home, home can be home. I find that when that's actually practiced, it makes a huge difference. And when I don't practice that, I really feel as if I've lost a lot of boundaries. So just a tip, I would say, from the trenches, as this webinar is called. I think, too, find out how your brain learns best. This is very different than other graduate programs. Medical school is medical school, but as far as different grad degrees or undergrad, this is totally different. My brain learns much different now, needs to retain this information in a much different way than it did when I was, my late teens, early 20s, learning communication or English. We have fit desks. Those are the desks that go on top so that we don't have to be sedentary all day, 10-minute breaks. Hydration, some of this seems common sense, but I feel if we're not reminded, we don't really understand the true importance. I treat class like a conversation, and that's worked best for my brain. So I try not to, personally, this works for me, it doesn't work for all my classmates. I turn off my computer and phone, or more so lately, I've found this out, and just listen to the professor, and I treat it like a conversation. My brain remembers conversations much more easily. In fact, odd details from conversations I'm able to recall, and I make sense. I have a person to attach that story with. If I just repeat whatever the professor is saying and type it into my notes, I'm a fast typer. That goes in one ear, out my fingers, and never again will it be seen. So repeat this conversation 3 times, learn it. Naturopathic medical are very, very collaborative. We do not encourage competition, which is another thing and reason why I fell in love with this profession as a whole. If you and I are going to be doctors someday helping individuals, I would never want to starve you of information so that I get a better grade or a better edge later on. That makes no sense. That's awful. So I'm not necessarily saying other programs do. I'm just saying that we highlight collaboration and team learning outside of class. It's something I always see on our campus, and I know that I see in other campuses as well. So that's something I really appreciate. Preceptorships, work or volunteering, especially in your first couple of years, if you're going to work, I would recommend that they be flexible, like night positions or weekends only. Additional studying and fun, I try to do that on Saturdays, and then help self-care Sundays, where I kind of start to slowly get into the groove. Otherwise, as far as total hours per week, it is whatever it takes. Some weeks, not so much. Other weeks, you feel like you do not stop working. Next slide. Work-life balance. So I happen to be in a long-distance relationship, so my work-life balance is a little skewed because it's probably my mechanism of coping with not having my partner here in San Diego, who happens to be in DC with this adorable little pup you see. So my work-life balance, I tend to work a little more so that I'm very ambitious, but also it keeps me busy and my mind off that. So as far as work-life balance, you have the regular routine, and sometimes, according to our therapeutic order, you need to intensify that work-life balance regime. So pictured here, some of my friends, I think this was in our second year, we were just getting to the point in spring quarter where we needed a break in some capacity. Doesn't mean we can miss classes. So we reserved a campsite last minute, drove up about an hour, and camped overnight, and we're back in class by 8 a.m. the next morning. So, you have to do what you need to do. You're a student first, so remember that. You have to become a good doctor. So as ideal as it sounds to be involved in all these different things outside of campus, and if anyone can attest to this, it's me, you really first have to become a good doctor. So those are great, but those are always secondary to becoming an excellent physician. We talked about the 9-to-5 job. I have some students who recommend approaching studying in extracurriculars, that high intensity interval kind of mindset. So they will do quick, intense spurts of 15 to 20 minutes for one commitment maybe that they have outside of school. And that, for some reason, makes them very productive, even if it's only 15 minutes to 30 minutes a week. Sometimes they get more done in that period of time than other individuals who kind of multitask for several hours on one task. I have a friend in school who uses the hashtag self-care is healthcare, and it's so true. Sleep hygiene is a real thing. If you go to your local naturopathic physician or teaching clinic, they can most likely provide you a handout on sleep hygiene. Get up, get out, as much as you can. Get outside while you're in school. Whatever you put into your classes are what you get out. This is this illusion that people have for every kind of medical program. Sometimes they decide they're going to go to medical school, they get into school, and they expect to just be the recipient of knowledge. That's really not the case. You really have to, if you're going to be a good physician, when a patient isn't coming with a chart that tells you everything that's wrong with them, all the different red flags that they have, labs that they need, life's not going to guide you that way. So soak up what you can from your professors who are experts in so many different things beyond naturopathic medicine. Soak up the knowledge from your colleagues. So often naturopathic medical school attracts individuals who come from a different background. Maybe this is their second or even third career. Maybe they are parents, and so as far as talking about different experiences with peds, they might have some really great personal tidbits for you. So I always soak up the knowledge that you can from people around you, and the different resources that all the schools have still blows my mind. Otherwise, I recommend building a support network with friends outside of school. It's great how familial we are with our classmates and colleagues, but you do have to have a balance. If you go to a smaller campus or even one of the larger schools, you see these people every single day. Your friends in other careers, they need friends outside of work as well. So do we. Next slide. Experiences in the teaching clinic. Our clinic, at least that I can speak to, and I'm pretty sure many are just the same, whether they call it a student clinician or an intern, it's pretty much the same thing. In the first 2 years at our program, one is a student observer. So they start out in their first year observing 20 hours in the clinic. The next year is 40 hours in the clinic. Meanwhile, also, once they're eligible to be preceptoring, which is essentially a clinical mentorship outside of school with varied levels of responsibility, they'll add on more hours. But as a student observer, you're really observing the therapeutic alliance that a student clinician develops with their patients. Oftentimes, because this is a teaching clinic, you make little micro mistakes from time to time. When you leave an appointment, oh, should I have said something like that? Oh, maybe I phrased this wrong, or darn, I forgot to ask them this. Communicating with your student observers sometimes, because they can't talk in an appointment. They're just silent observers. Sometimes they have really good feedback. And an observer, we have this feeling of put me in, coach, like you just want to get off the bench. But that's a really valuable time as you're learning different counseling classes, and we have a class called Therapeutic Alliance. How is this person connecting with their patients? Some of those intangible skills are really important to ingrained in the first 2 years. And then obviously as a student clinician, what makes us a little different from other medical programs are that we actually manage the care of real patients in our 3rd and 4th year, always under the supervision of a licensed doctor or physician. So that's really important to distinguish, that we actually get to practice what we're learning in our 3rd and 4th year. So by the time that we've graduated, we already have had so many patient contacts, so much experience actually working with patients, not observing a system for just a month. So that's really important. All right, so next slide. That picture on the left was just me really excited the day I became a student clinician. So anyways, looking forward, my future plans, my vision for naturopathic medicine. I am very passionate about global health and health policy, also in a domestic fashion. So I really anticipate that never, not being a part of my life. So I will continue in that direction. I am very emphatically passionate about the principles of naturopathic medicine actually translating over to the public health arena, very much so. So I'm really fascinated about that. Maybe you'll see me 10 years down the line getting my MPH or another degree, but that's a big passion of mine. My vision for naturopathic medicine, I really see us looking at the different disparities in health where things beyond the exam room, naturopathic medicine has an excellent ability to connect with. So just because someone's coming in with a sore throat doesn't mean that we're going to stop at, have you been around anyone who's been sick recently? We take into account so many different environmental toxins, socioeconomic status, the social determinants of health. Before that was a cool thing. That was part of what naturopathic medicine really took a look at. When you look at the whole person, you take into account the way society may view them or treat them. What is the stigma associated with a condition they maybe have? As far as mental health, we really take into the whole lot. So I see naturopathic medicine just really, I don't want to say being the next big thing, because it already is big, and I see it taking a greater role in public health. I see our physicians and doctors graduating or currently getting more involved in health policy. It's really exciting to see the different boards and committees that our NDs are on. So that's kind of where I see. If you were to talk to me after this, I can let my excitement really fly. I am very passionate about the future of this medicine. Next slide. So credit comparison of MD versus ND programs, we use the AANMC in different Capitol Hill packets we provide to legislators, typically have diagrams like this just to help everyone understand. More of these resources are online through AANMC, and I'll let Dr. Yanez maybe talk about this a little bit later on. But as you can see, our first 2 years are extremely comparable to our fellow peers in other programs. It's basic science. You can't really change basic science, right? The humerus is the humerus. There's nothing different that you can really change about that. So we do learn anatomy and embryology, biochemistry, histology, physiology. In our second year, at least in our program, we at my campus, we dive more into pathology, microbiome, and immunology. That's when our integrated pharmacology program starts. And I think that's something really important to understand, is that we do have pharmacology training. In addition to that, a lot of the programs, you see the 5 and the 8 on the right there, a lot of our programs, if not all of them, offer so many additional electives in pharmacology that goes way beyond what you see on the right-hand side. And in fact, if I didn't have a budget every quarter, I would probably take every single one. We have phenomenal experts in the field who really understand drug-herb interactions, and that's where naturopathic medicine also can excel, and where I really see a vision for us in the future becoming even more understood or perceived as these experts, because we really are the experts in this field. So many people are turning more towards natural options. They are lost in their health food stores looking at different supplements, or online ordering certain teas. And they really need to be consulting with a physician and an expert who knows, if you're on these medications, this doesn't mean this is the best herb for you, or the other way around. So anyway, this is our schooling. Very, very comparable in the first 2 years. We tend to jump into the systems similarly in our third and fourth year, but that whole time it's infused with those tools and tool belts that I just discussed, the different modalities and the theory as well. Next slide. Previous degrees, I'll just touch on this briefly, but there are benefits and challenges of having various backgrounds, and people often look at this as a very binary possibility for a background. Either you come from a hard science background or you don't. I wouldn't encourage you to look at it that way. If you fulfill the prerequisites of the program, you have the knowledge that's necessary to move forward. I had a background in anthropology. I also studied family life and human sexuality, communications. That was of extreme interest to me. I've already found in clinical scenarios that knowledge has taken me very, very far and been very, very advantageous. Now, in my first and second year, when we were studying the basic sciences, because I didn't take as many, or that wasn't necessarily something that was very fascinating to me in undergrad, that I didn't spend a ton more electives focusing on, that was a little more challenging for me. So if you can interest yourself to take more biochemistry in undergrad, if you're a non-hard science background, I would encourage it, because that's also such a strong foundation for naturopathic medicine, really, really understanding the different biochemical processes in the body. So I encourage you to do that. If you do come from a hard science background, you have a lot of advantages in your first couple of years and in your career the whole time throughout. However, I would strengthen maybe some weaker areas. Maybe, I have a bias, so maybe take a medical anthropology class, a family life class, or a class in geriatric considerations or something, so that you have a better idea of different worldviews. And sometimes when you study it in a class, it really brings things home, just as if studying abroad, or even more because you're forced to write about it during class. Anyway, that's my little spiel on previous degrees. You can really look at it any other way, but fulfill the prerequisites, strengthen what you may consider a weak area, and know that, like I said earlier, really invest into the knowledge of your colleagues who have different backgrounds than you. All right, next slide. The schools, these are all fantastic institutions. I would probably go to any of these for very specific reasons. In fact, I have considered many of, or all of these schools. There were a few geographical constraints, maybe whether it was a person, my personality. I come from Michigan originally, so that I really did want some consistent sunshine, as well as many other reasons that attracted me to San Diego. However, if I could do it all over again, or each of these schools are fantastic, and they each have a specific draw to them. So these are the different schools. Next slide. So picking the right school for you, you really need to step back and consider what's right for you when you pick the campus. If you're moving states to go to naturopathic medical school and you have a family, yeah, maybe for you the utmost concern is which is closest, which is going to have the best school district around for my children. I mean, obviously, if you're a parent, that's probably already come up in your mind, but you need to pick what's the best environment for yourself as well. Understand when you visit a campus that the students that you see giving a tour or the environment that you see at that time may not be the identical environment that is recreated by the time that you are a student. You really do have the power to create the kind of environment that you want at different schools, which is one of the reasons why I was really attracted to Bastyr University, California. It was a new campus. I'm someone who thrives on creating my own opportunities, and I thought I would be able to do that at a new campus. Good news, I have. However, I know I'm also transferring to the Kenmore campus for the summer quarter in Seattle through Bastyr, just for the summer so that I can sample another campus. You know, if it ever were some kind of possibility to try all the different schools, if patient continuity wasn't a concern, I would. I really love all the other schools, but you know, maybe you're really drawn to the kinds of NDs that maybe are in a certain area, or maybe there's a CTCA and a lot of FOBNOs or fellows of the American Board of Naturopathic Oncology in a certain area, and you just really want to be around that environment. Well, maybe that's the best environment for you. Maybe you want a campus that offers certain dual degree programs that you think you'll be of interest at some point. Check that out. Are there certain opportunities that students at a campus tend to be drawn towards more? Well, maybe that campus really encourages students to go down that path, and that's right for you. So consider these things. Consider that the environment does play a big factor. So if you're someone who loves the snow and you love to be able to snow and ski, yeah, San Diego has, you know, mountains an hour away that you can drive to at certain points in the year, but maybe we're not your best bet. Maybe you are going to miss the seasons when you get here, which is a real thing. I miss it from Michigan. I miss autumn. But maybe that's necessary for you. It may sound like a trivial thing, the weather, the environment, the kind of city that the school is in, but those actually do play a big part, going back to that work-life balance. So consider those. Next slide, please. Getting started. These are also really great questions to talk to the advisors at each school for. One advisor will most likely be able to give you a good understanding as far as the financial aspects, a solid financial advisor. At my interview, I was asked something, this was, what, I don't know, 4 years ago? I was asked, are you ready to take out as many loans as you're going to need to pay for medical school? And I looked, and you know, everyone's worried about saying the wrong thing, but I just looked at my interviewers and I said, no, I'm not actually. I don't think anyone really is, unless, you know, maybe they come from a more fortunate financial background. But I said, of course I'm not. It could be a scary thing, but if you work hard and, you know, you put yourself into your program, you really invest your time, you are ambitious, you go to all the free offerings that your school has as far as business planning, career planning, you know, take those up. Those may come in your inbox and, oh, I don't really want to spend a lunch hour doing anything. Take advantage of those. That is free career advice. I learned my first year of this program through a free entire weekend-long workshop, how to build a website. And though, yeah, I'm not great at updating it all the time with content, I learned so many valuable lessons as far as marketing myself, or, you know, even how I create a website, what are the different things to consider that I wouldn't have had I set the time aside. So all of these, they don't have to be figured out right before you start school. They don't even have to be figured out in your first year or second year. You have to chip it off a little bit as it goes. Your personal plan will undoubtedly change in some capacity. Your academic plan may also. You may get into your second year or at the end of your first year and decide that a 5-year track instead of a 4-year track is more suitable for you. The biggest thing is with all three of these, the academic plan, the financial plan, and the personal plan, be gentle with yourself, that this may change, and that may be a really great thing, in fact. Next slide. So I guess this is it. You can contact me through my Bastyr email address. I always say, if you don't hear back from me within 48 hours, boomerang that, you know, send that email back to me, because it's most likely this habit that I'm trying to break of checking emails when I wake up in the morning, I'm in my bed and I'm scrolling through emails, and then I'm really not conscious yet. And then later, after I've had coffee, I realize, oh, someone emailed me. What did they say? I have to go back and find this. So just send it back to me in 48 hours if you don't hear a response. And please don't take offense. You can follow me on social media in these avenues. Connect with me on LinkedIn. You can check out my website. It is a little bit bare bones, but hey, I did it. I'm like talking about being gentle with yourself. That's a pretty great thing to be able to do while you're in school anyway. Otherwise, I'm going to save time for questions, if there are any.
Thank you so much, Griffin. Before we start on questions, Jamie was just going to make a quick announcement about our upcoming events.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Griffin. Before we begin the question and answer session, I'd like to invite you all to our free upcoming webinar that'll be taking place on July 18th. And the topic is a career in naturopathic oncology, integrating naturopathic support into cancer care and prevention, featuring Dr. Daniel Lander. Also on June 18th, we have the NAHP Health Fair. It's at Minneapolis Hilton. This is a great opportunity for students and advisors to connect. There will be over 200 health professionals at this event. So we encourage you to join us in those upcoming events. And now we'll turn it over to Dr. Llanos for the question and answer session.
Oh, okay. Well, Griffin, again, thank you. I know the value of having, I can talk to students, but I've been out of school quite some time now, and actually last week made 20 years that I moved out to Arizona to start school. So I've been out of the game quite a bit. So it's really helpful to have somebody who's currently in the situation that you're in and going through all of this answering questions. So right now there are a couple questions about diversity in age. So we've got some older folks, some not really older actually, but a couple students who are concerned about starting medical school a little bit older, as well as what the diversity in the student body is. Can you speak to that a bit?
Absolutely. First off, as far as age or advancement in experience, one could say, that is more broad. I mean, obviously, you do have a lot of people who come right out of undergrad and straight into medical school. That's something you see across every medical program on the board. But I will say that we do attract a lot of people who this is their second or third career. So whether that means we have a lot of students who've taken, maybe 3 to 5 years, maybe started another career or took some time off and traveled or just worked. We do see that. We also, I love this story as far as this talks both to different points in life as well as just being an incredible time manager. I had a classmate who within 2 months of medical school already had 4 children, beautiful, amazing children, and became pregnant with her 5th child during the first year of medical school. Now, I don't know about you if you've had any experience with children, but that it's quite a task at hand. And so she is someone who was and still is able to manage, a healthy, beautiful marriage, help and be a mother to 5 wonderful children, whether through high school or a toddler, and she's still able to do really well. So she's come at a different time in life. I started school with someone who was in their late 60s or early 70s. Different circumstances as far as her business, I believe, made it not possible for her to continue along in the program. But we do. We have people who've been MDs who come in the program and would like to now get their ND. And they are practicing along the side and taking the extra classes that they need. And they're maybe in their 40s or perhaps in their 50s. I also don't want to guess their age right now if they're listening, and I have no idea, because that's another thing with naturopathic medical students. We take really good care of ourselves, or we maybe later in life we start taking really good care of ourselves, and we can never really tell anyone's age. So that's as far as the age goes. It's absolutely possible. I wouldn't be afraid to come back to school if you've been out of the student life for a while. There are so many resources nowadays to help individuals who are not used to studying all the time. Like, how do you even get your brain back on that track? Maybe you're thinking. Or now that life is so digital, what resources do I have? Like I said, we're a very collaborative environment across the board. All of these schools, we will help our colleagues adjust to the digital age, the student life, never shy on those resources. As far as other components of diversity goes, let's see here. I don't attend all of the other schools, but I do believe that we have efforts that I've heard about across the board to increase diversity. So whether that is, going to these areas beyond just certain college fairs to promote our schools and our medicine, a lot of our grads are bringing their profession home with them into their communities, where maybe it's a rural community or maybe it's a very, very urban community, and wherever those health disparities are. We also have students who are international students who amaze me at how they're able to fundraise for school based on whatever constraints they have, and they bring their medicine back to their countries. So we do, I wouldn't say I am always feeling impressed by the diversity, but what I am impressed by are the efforts of my student colleagues and the professional colleagues, the people in our marketing department even, who are finding new creative ways to get word out about our programs. I would say that in a short period of time, I think we'll see the growth and diversity that already is growing become much more exponential. So if you're someone who...
Oh, go ahead, Griffin. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say,
oh, yeah, go ahead.
concerned about that, at least on my specific campus, we can talk about, I can talk to you outside of this webinar about different ways that our campus is approaching this, and then ways that not only are we approaching this as far as bringing students in, but how are we educating our future physicians on, besides cultural competencies, social justice issues are a very large and important factor at our campus that we talk about more frequently, and I really appreciate that. So we can talk about it another time, and Dr. Yanez can speak to this a little bit more.
Yeah, I know one of the values for AANMC and all of our member schools is to attract and develop and retain the best and brightest naturopathic physicians from all walks of life and backgrounds. We really support the schools in having a culture of inclusion where everyone feels respected, treated fairly, and provided the work-life balance that allows them to excel in their chosen careers. And that's something that we value extremely highly. I think that you will find at the naturopathic colleges a culture of real inclusiveness. There are, at the various different campuses, depending on the school, there are support groups for veteran students, minority students, students who want to be involved more in nature cure, the LGBT community. So you'll really find very much of an inclusiveness, and as Griffin spoke to earlier, just in the classwork, not a culture where students are competing against each other, but really supporting and using the principles of naturopathic medicine in the actual studying and learning to become an ND. And so I hope that covers the diversity issue, and it's something that we always recognize is something that we can do more on. Griffin, there's another question I'd like to shoot your way about specialization, and at what point do students approach choosing a specialty if they want to do that?
Yeah, this is such a hot question across the field as a whole, because if you are to ask, a good percentage of our profession, they would say, what are you talking about? Naturopathic medicine already is a specialty, and it really is. Yes, primarily, but we enrich our minds and our careers so often in ways that we are drawn to. So I always recommend, people come to school and they want to be a pediatrician. Well, that's fantastic. That's great. You have a specific demographic of patients that you feel called to help. Maybe that will change. Maybe it won't. I think it's very important to, if you're going to go into naturopathic medical school, to go in with an open mind. I this is why I, as a student, am giving this rather than maybe, as I can say my own personal opinion. My personal opinion is you're doing a disservice to yourself and to your future patients if you come in with a closed mindset about this is what I want to treat, this is what I want to do. Because then you're doing something in your brain where you're kind of closing out an opportunity for information that may surprise you, that you're really fascinated by, or that you actually need to know, but maybe, oh, I don't want to work with kids at all, so I'm just not really going to pay attention to this lecture. And though you may not consciously say that, that may subconsciously be what happens. And I would warn against and really promote that you approach school with this hungry curiosity. If you treat it like that, you are getting your investment back many times full, not just financial, but personal investment as well. So people, when you start to preceptor, that's a really fantastic opportunity to start observing or working alongside physicians and doctors who maybe you want to understand why and how they practice with kids, or maybe they are experts in nephrology or urology, and maybe your weakness is there, so maybe that's why you picked that preceptor, or maybe your strength is there and you want to have even more expertise on that component of the body, although naturopathic medicine also really highlights that the body is not segmented by systems. Maybe for educational standards, we have to learn the body through different systems to check off that we've completed that retaining of that knowledge. But the body is one, big universe of systems. You can't really specialize in endocrinology and not, the body doesn't come presented as one system, right? It's all of those. So that's sometimes this common misconception. People come in, oh, I really want to focus on this. You can't focus on one system and be a really, really good physician, unless maybe you're a consultant on specific topics, but that's really not the trend. Naturopathic medical students often respond in surveys that the majority of them would like to go into primary care. That doesn't mean that we don't have fob-nosed, the naturopathic oncologists. We do, or different specialties, absolutely. But save that mindset closer to the end of your education when you are doing a little bit more specialized preceptorships, and just be open to the journey that will unfold in school. Any other questions?
Yeah, sure. We've got a lot, actually. So maybe if you can try and keep the answers short, because we've got a bunch here. Can you talk about preparing for the interview?
Yes. Be yourself. Understand that often a lot of the schools are looking for your perspective and mindset. They want to know that you have a good grasp on your strengths and weaknesses and coping mechanisms. So if you don't have any good coping mechanisms for stress or a good routine, maybe start investigating that for yourself right now. They want to know that naturopathic medical school is really what you want, not just, I don't know about any of the other options, just seemed like a good fit. They really want to know you did your homework. Go shadow someone, go sit in with an ND if you can, and then otherwise be really aware of maybe also your strengths and weaknesses on your transcript, and how are you going to explain that? Not necessarily justify, I don't want to put that way, but if you come with a background that shows you just struggled a little bit in some of these kinds of classes, have you done something on the side to not to compensate, but to strengthen that area? Or do you have a plan when those similar classes come up in medical school, how you're not going to get caught behind? They want to know, who are you? Why do you want naturopathic medicine? Is it really naturopathic medicine that you want, or do you just want to be able to, prescribe herbs? So let's make sure that you're really here because you want to. Are we a good fit for you? Always make sure you know that you're interviewing that school just as much as they're interviewing you. And then how are you going to succeed? They want to know maybe also how best they can serve you. So those are the kinds of questions I would be prepared for. Definitely don't script anything out. Don't stage it. This is a genuine conversation.
Thank you. We've got somebody with an interest in nutrition. Can you speak a little bit about how nutrition plays a role in the practice of naturopathic medicine?
Oh my gosh, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. You know, the you are what you eat thing, it goes so way beyond that. And we start nutrition, at least in our campus, in second year, whether it's a whole class on macronutrients or a whole class on micronutrients. Now that our nutrition program is down at our campus, our students actually also get to have a lab portion of that class where they're putting it in action, which is really neat and always makes the campus smell really great. But as far as nutrition, it's a massive component. You so often, if you've sat in with an ND or have talked to a student, the diet diary is probably a favorite component of our visits or our patient homework. So nutrition is a massive component. In fact, our classmates who have studied nutrition in undergrad, whether maybe they had a master's beforehand, maybe they're a dual degree right now, or maybe they have a bachelor's in nutrition, they have a leg up in that aspect. They can maybe understand. A lot of the students who've done nutrition also have done biochemistry, so they can really highlight that patient education during the appointment as to why certain foods have certain reactions in your body, or maybe why certain policies are the way they are, and on why certain foods are labeled a certain way. So nutrition actually is a very, very, very large component, and it goes beyond just what we're eating with, you know, a whole foods diet, but, you know, sometimes certain food constituents are put into supplements, so we talk about that as well.
Fabulous. Can you speak, there are a couple of questions here about preparing for after graduation and how, you know, I know you talked a little bit about the specialization, but what you've done to prepare, you know, either for yourself for setting up practice when you're done, have you communicated with the future community, with your future community? What types of things do you see students doing to help really solidify their success after graduation?
Yes. I'm very passionate about this, and I'll try to be really quick. I've been told time and time again by professors and administration that your job interview starts on day one of school. That does not mean that you...
Amen. Amen, amen, amen.
I can't emphasize this enough. This doesn't mean that you brown nose your way through school, right? This means you are genuine, you work hard, and that's really what it is. Work hard and be respectful. You know, if you come from a background where you have, this is your second or third career, and maybe a topic that's being lectured upon is relevant to a former career, you know, be respectful. Your professors are the ones who, and your clinic supervisors are the ones who write your scholarship recommendations. They're the ones who oftentimes, NDs who are currently practicing know which of their friends are practicing or are the faculty at certain schools. So if they get a job application or they're interviewing people, of course it makes sense to say, hey, friend who I went to school with who teaches now at our school, what do you think of this person? Oh, well, and they're going to give their opinion. And that's not I shouldn't say this in a way that, you know, strikes fear in your eyes or makes you afraid, but I just want to emphasize the kind of respectful environment that should exist as a student, and the investment of your education. That will be a testament perhaps to how you act as a professional. Day one of medical school is day one of your career. Go to all of those events, start investing yourself in the communities that you're drawn to. Those will most likely be the communities that you'll get a job in later. So I'm very interested in health policy. I do not have a job lined up in health policy as of yet when I graduate. However, I engulf myself in those communities, and I'm networking with them. I go to every single AANMC conference, which is, you know, happens annually in the summertime. You get to meet a bunch of NDs. They're the greatest of folk. I go to every lobby day event, whether it's DC Fly that I had to miss last year's, or lobby day. You engulf yourself in the communities you want. Treat the job interview as if it's starting in day one. And then otherwise, you're going to meet people at different other conferences. Represent yourself and your profession accordingly. I don't know. I feel like that answered it. I'm not entirely sure.
I think so. Another question about studying for NPLEX.
Oh, yes. So there are 2 steps, NPLEX 1, NPLEX 2. First one is basic sciences. The second one are your clinical boards. I haven't taken the clinical boards one yet, but as far as the first one, don't wait till the last minute. Don't let the fear of the exam override your life. Put yourself in the kind of environment to study that you are able to function in. So just because everyone's maybe studying in a group doesn't mean that's the best environment for you. Maybe studying in a coffee shop is awful, but we use so many different resources to study. Yes, we do use USMLE books as well, because basic science is basic science, folks. We can't really change that. We do have many resources. A lot of our graduates over the years have provided different resources. Check out Paul Anderson. He's fantastic. Whenever he presents at conferences later on, everyone in the crowd is thinking, oh, all I'm thinking about is studying for boards, hearing his voice. But it's true. He's brilliant. He does a really good job. So there are many different resources. I would recommend studying at least a month or 2 out, but then don't expect to know it all. Boards, nearly any kind of board exam, oftentimes you go in and you don't necessarily know the exact answer for every single one, but you have to use the skills, the test-taking skills to rule out other answers and work your way through a problem. So you may leave feeling like I have no idea what just happened in there, but that's okay. That's normal, and you'll be okay.
Thank you. Okay, last question. So there's a question about practicing if you wanted to start a practice in a state that is not yet licensed. What is it that you see students doing in that case?
Mm-hmm.
And I can touch on that a bit too if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll speak to a little bit part of this, and then Dr. Yanez, you're more appropriate to speak to other parts of it. But whether you're a student now or you're planning on being a student, always contact the state association of that profession almost immediately if you plan on practicing there after graduation. So day 1 of being a student or before medical school, become a member of that state association. Learn how to support them in regulation and legislation. And then, 2, if you ever to come home to a state and you start moseying on around or you want to go to the Capitol to lobby, you should always check in with them. But additionally, you have to get to know them specifically. What headway have they made? What laws currently exist? Can they call themselves an MD in that state? I don't know. You need to ask them. Can you act as a consultant in that state? If so, how do you get labs? I would always contact the state association, as well as AANMC has a state alliance. They may be consulted as well if there's no state association in that state that's truly active. They could perhaps help you out to push towards regulation. But Dr. Yanez, maybe you want to speak to that more.
Yeah, I can. So when I first graduated, I graduated from the school in Arizona, and I stayed there for about 3 years. I taught supervised students in clinical practice, and then I really wanted to go back to my home state, which was New York, and New York still is actually not licensed. And so what I did, and what I definitely recommend that students do if you're looking into pre-licensed states, is that you start networking as a student. A lot of the things, it really depends on the state and the culture within the state, how long NDs have been practicing there, and and how populated the state is. But I can guarantee you that there are a lot of opportunities in all of the states, including the pre-licensed states, for docs to do well. It may take a little bit more legwork in the beginning just to set up a place for yourself. to do some networking and to find what the right situation would be for you personally in that state. You know, there are students who enjoy clinical practice. That is going to look different in a state where you do not maintain a license. You often won't be able to call yourself a physician or practice to the full scope that you were used to as a student. So you really need to think about what that scope looks like, or if you need an additional degree so that you can practice legally within the state. And if you don't want to do clinical practice and you want to do consulting or working in a non-clinical manner, there are lots of opportunities for that as well, but it's really just, you know, again, do you need an additional degree to do so if you want to do administration or public health? Are there other areas that, you know, doing some legwork and research on the front end would help you just be prepared to really graduate and you know, get off the ground running. There were a couple questions on student loans that I didn't cover yet. I referred folks to our alumni survey. However, what, you know, your student loans are, you know, they start to become due pretty soon. So I always tell students to make your plan as to what you're going to be doing after graduation as soon as possible. When you get your boards and hopefully you pass on the first attempt, you can, you know, begin working right away, if not even sooner. And so that's just something to keep in consideration as you make that plan, and you know, and work toward your new life as an ND. So with that, I know that we're a little bit after the hour. We do have a few additional questions. I will stay on the line and answer some of the questions that I can. You can also feel free to email info@aannmc.org for additional questions. And we are so thankful that you chose this hour, this early in the morning for some of you, to attend our webinar today, and hope that you can make our future events. And with that, I will thank Griffin McMath, soon to be Dr. Griffin McMath.
Sounds exciting.
How's that sound, Griffin?
Sounds like it's 12 months away, and I can't wait.
So soon to be Dr. Griffin McMath, and just really thankful that you took some time today to give your perspective on what it's like to be an ND student. So with that, I'll close our webinar today, and thank you again, and invite you all to our next upcoming one on oncology. Thank you, and hope that you all have a healthy and wonderful day. Take care.